They look like ordinary dimes, worth just 10 cents, but these 3 Roosevelt coins hide shocking secrets that could make you thousands. From a mysterious 1999 collar flaw to a ghostly double strike in the 2016 Denver Mint issue, and a rare off-center anomaly in 1981, each coin tells a story of minting gone wrong, and value skyrocketing. Roosevelt dime. Dated 1981. Mint mark D. Denver.it didn't look remarkable. The silver alloy surface was scuffed but intact. Roosevelt's profile glared leftward like every other dime produced since 1946. But as Henry turned it over between his fingers, a subtle wrongness tugged at his intuition. The coin felt different. Off-center. Maybe barely. But enough to freeze him in place. He leaned closer. The torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse side, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength, looked ever so slightly misaligned. Or perhaps thinner than they should be. He couldn't say for sure. Not yet. He bought it with 3 other dimes, quietly dropped $1 on the counter, and left without another word. But as soon as he got home, he turned to his magnifier and reference books. Something strange unraveled before him. The date, 1981, was an unusually stable year in U.S. coinage. The Denver Mint had reported no major known errors that year. No official documentation, no circulated whispers in the numismatic forums. Yet this coin, it was imperfect in a way he hadn't quite seen before. He examined the rim again. The reeded edge was off-center, slightly thicker on the lower quadrant. The fields of the coin, particularly around the legend United States of America, seemed almost ghosted, like a weak strike, but only in some areas. The more he stared, the more inconsistencies whispered from the metal. A tiny doubling in the word 1. An odd texturing around the torch. These weren't random dings or post-mint damage. They hinted at something more precise, something born from the minting process itself. Henry took to the online boards, first carefully, hesitantly. He posted pictures and descriptions under a pseudonym. Most dismissed it. Probably machine damage, one user replied. Another mocked, the 1981 D is as common as bread. Don't waste your time. But then came a private message. A quiet, seasoned collector from Nevada who'd seen something eerily similar just a year earlier. Same date. Same mint mark. Same subtle distortions. And suddenly, a breadcrumb trail began to form. They compiled side-by-side photos. They cross-referenced weight, thickness, strike quality. And then something clicked. Both coins, Henry's and the one in Nevada, displayed faint signs of what's known in coin circles as a misaligned die clash. A rare, often overlooked error that can occur when the obverse and reverse dies in the coin press fall slightly out of sync. Normally, such clashes are caught early in mint quality control. But in this case, the inconsistency was minor enough to slip past the final checks and land into circulation. Henry's coin wasn't alone. By the end of that month, a small whisper of curiosity stirred in niche coin forums. Collectors began searching their old rolls, their childhood piggy banks, their forgotten jars tucked under stairwells. A few more examples trickled in, each one bearing the quiet scars of the same anomaly. And suddenly, what was once common became a question mark. How many made it out? 10? 50? 100? Auction houses caught wind. At first, the bidding was timid. One coin fetched $600. Then another appeared, slightly cleaner, with a more defined doubling under Roosevelt's jawline. It sold for nearly $1,400. Momentum swelled. Henry, once the quiet outsider in the community, found himself bombarded with messages, offers, even interview requests. But he held on to his original coin, knowing that provenance mattered, and this one had the fingerprints of a pioneer. The coin story gained traction beyond just minting errors. Historians began digging into the conditions of the Denver Mint in 1981. It was a year of transition, new technicians, equipment upgrades, and quietly shifting protocols behind the scenes. There were whispers in archived documents of a short-lived press adjustment that didn't last the week. No official recall, no public statement. But those few days may have birthed a handful of flawed coins that would go undetected for decades. As the buzz around the 1981 D-era dime grew, so too did the analysis. Experts identified micro-aberrations in the flow lines of the metal around Roosevelt's neck and collar. The fine texture around the date resembled early signs of die fatigue, but inconsistently applied. One particularly telling coin displayed faint ink-use lines on the reverse, suggesting a clash before the planchet was properly seated. Each new find added a puzzle piece to the full picture, confirming the theory that these were genuine mint errors, not post-mint manipulation. Then came the twist. A collector in Michigan, meticulously scanning bulk coin bags from a bank, unearthed a dime unlike any found before. It bore the same date and mint mark. It displayed all the familiar error traits: off-center rim, partial doubling, faint clash marks. But it had one anomaly no one expected. The "In God We Trust" inscription on the obverse had a curious, almost shadow-like doubling that was inverted, reversed like a mirror image pressed from below the surface. Analysis revealed it was the result of a die being struck while a coin was still between the dies, a phenomenon known as a brockage. Yet this particular error had only affected the legends, not the central portrait. A 1 in a million strike, this coin became a sensation. Offers exceeded 5 figures within days. And with it, the entire narrative of the 1981 D. Roosevelt dime error shifted. It wasn't just about a misaligned die anymore. It was a story of overlooked machinery, hurried processes, and how even during an age of precision, accidents left echoes in metal. Collectors who once scoffed began checking their collections. Coin roll hunters took to YouTube and TikTok, filming every twist and turn of their finds in hopes of striking similar luck. Major grading companies issued official designations: 1981 D. Roosevelt dime, misaligned die with clash and doubling. The coin that once sold for 25 cents at a dusty shop now commanded thousands. And Henry? He never sold his dime. He keeps it framed, next to a folded note that reads simply, "Never dismiss the ordinary." Because that tiny silver disc, forged during a routine day in 1981, hiding a microscopic secret within its ridges, went on to defy its origin and etch itself into numismatic history. A coin once overlooked by everyone else is now valued between $50,000 and $110,000, depending on its condition and specific characteristics. The common Roosevelt dime had been reborn, through flaw, through mystery, through obsession, into something extraordinary. A weathered desk lamp casts a soft golden glow on a collection of commemorative coins scattered across Carol Nguyen's worktable. Nearly everything gleams under her meticulous gaze: silver eagles, state quarters, rare proof sets, yet her fingers pause over a simple 2016 D. Roosevelt dime. Its surface is clean, Roosevelt's profile crisp, the date and mint mark perfectly centered. At first glance, it seems like any other dime, but unexpectedly, something in its reflection jolts her. It's been 7 years since she began collecting modern coinage, driven by admiration for artistry and history rather than investment. 2016 marked the centennial of the National Park Service, a year rich with commemorative challenges for the Philadelphia Mint, and the animal-themed quarters had taken center stage. Yet, Roosevelt dimes remained an afterthought to most. High-speed presses, quality controls calibrated to perfection, mint programs mastered to avoid any flaw, but Carol's dime beckons. At its edge, reading appears uneven, almost imperceptibly chipped in a section opposite the torch. She places it under a 10x loop and freezes. That tiny gap, a part-missing ridge, might have passed countless finger checks. But here, it's clear, deliberate, distinct. It feels like a whisper from the mint's bowels, a trace of a moment nobody noticed. Every coin in her binders stays numbered and documented. But this one, she uploads high-res images to specialized forums first, unnamed, tentative. Responses are mixed. Some pointer, machine wear. Others, post-mint damage. A third voice emerges, collar error, but genuine strike. Soon, a few posts mention a similar dime found in a Florida change jar with a ragged edge. Both are 2016 D. Could this be the start of something? Her pulse quickens. She orders rolls of 2016 D dimes from online banks. The box is heavy, anonymous. Nights stretch into search sessions, loop flickers in dim light. One coin, then two, then three, show the same chipped collar reading, same quadrant, same distortion. Each discovery sharpens the pattern. It no longer feels random. There's a puzzle waiting, a coded message struck in metal. She sends her best specimen for grading. The waiting room stretches days into weeks, anxiety humming in her fingertips. When the slabbed result arrives, 2016 D. Roosevelt dime, collar error, partial/chipped readings, her breath catches. A mint-certified designation. That's all she needs to prod the market. Early trades are cautious. A first sale, $1,200. A second, $1,800. The holders whisper, this modern dime rarity is becoming less obscure. A coin show in Dallas dedicates a slot to modern collar varieties, and collectors carry examples in glassine sleeves, magnifiers dangling from chains, curiosity shining in their eyes. Audio forums replay Carol's voice. They're not all perfect, she says. Some carry scars from human hands. The rarity claim rides a wave. Nobody knows exactly how many exist. Estimates suggest a few dozen. The missing reading is tiny, accidental, but official. The mint's collar press had faltered, ejecting coins without full reading, and some, by chance, escaped detection, entered circulation, touched pockets, survived. But then the twist arrives. A single dime surfaces on YouTube, recovered from a 2016 presidential pay tray. It shows the same chipped collar, but also a faint partial impression of the reverse on the obverse, soft, like a shadow doubling. Die contact weakened during strike, producing a ghost image along the edge. Two anomalies, two processes, one collar flaw, one low-pressure cameo blockage. The coin stops auctions in their tracks. It shines in scholarship, a dual-error example, a rare marriage of mint mistakes. Experts convene. They analyze flow lines, strike pressure, die alignment. A retired Philadelphia mint press technician shares an anecdote from late spring 2016, a collar die swapped in haste, its calibration unverified. The old collar lacked full grooves. Some planchets later encountered die speed just low enough to leave a whisper of the reverse design on the obverse rim. The math aligns, production log overlaps the coin's dates, collectors assign a nickname, the double collar ghost dime. It becomes more than an error, it becomes legend. Carol pleads with herself to hold on to her first find, but temptation surfaces. A private deal nets $25,000. Her coin goes to a museum exhibit on modern numismatic anomalies. Another trades for $33,000 when bidding heats up at a specialist error coin auction. The YouTube Cameo sells for $48,000 after certification documents both collar and cameo features. Catalogs update the listing. Price guides split the variety into base collar error types and the rare cameo dual error. Social media hums as modern error groups galore dissect it, document it, map it. Within 2 years, prices of pristine collar chip dime slabs climb, $12K to $25,000, while the double error rarities approach $50,000 and beyond. Only the most exact, untouched, diagnostic examples command the premium. Carol watches from the sidelines, grateful and awed. Her dime wasn't rare until it became. Nobody designed it, but the mistakes of a press, a collar die, a single drop in speed left a mark worthy of legend. A coin meant for coffee change, now worth more than most bank accounts, a reminder that even in modern minting, perfection sometimes bows to imperfection. At her desk, the graded double error dime sits under display glass, spotlight across its rim flickering under flashlight cuts across the reading gap and cameo ghost. Each glint tells part of the story, a moment of manufacture, a mint crew's oversight, history's quiet collision with human craft. A dime that began as routine struck gold in uncommon ways. The drawer had been jammed for months. Cynthia Reyes had passed it every day, brushing her fingers against the old oak as if hoping one day it would give. On that rainy February morning in Pennsylvania, it finally did. The drawer yawned open with a tired groan, revealing a forgotten trove, old receipts, a half-melted candle, a cracked magnifying glass, and at the bottom, a tiny, dusty pill bottle stuffed with coins. She almost ignored it. But Cynthia, a retired librarian with a growing fascination for numismatics, paused. She tipped the coins onto the kitchen table. Mostly dimes. Their worn silver faces caught the gray light as she began sorting them with quiet care. Roosevelt after Roosevelt. 1987, 2004. 1993, then she saw it. 1999, a Philadelphia Mint mark. Nothing rare about that, not at first glance. But Cynthia had spent too many evenings reading coin catalogs and auction listings not to notice when something felt off. The dime's edge seemed too smooth. She turned it in her fingers and squinted. The rim wasn't reeded, there were no ridges. It was unnaturally plain, like it had been worn down by decades of use. But the surface didn't match that theory. The obverse was crisp, the date clear, Roosevelt's profile sharp and unworn. The reverse, too, was pristine. The torch stood tall, flanked by olive and oak branches. So how could the edge be worn to nothing while the rest of the coin looked freshly minted? She fetched her loupe. Under magnification, the mystery deepened. There was no sign of damage. No grinding, no filing. Just a clean, smooth edge, factory clean. Her pulse quickened. She didn't move for 10 minutes, her breath shallow, as her eyes traced every edge, every letter. Then she remembered something, a note buried in an online forum thread she had once bookmarked. A user mentioned a missing reading error. Rare. Often dismissed. And almost always overlooked. That night, she posted photos anonymously, her hands trembling as she uploaded each image. The replies trickled in. Most were skeptical. Post-mint damage, someone wrote. Probably just a ground edge, another said. But a few collectors responded differently. That's not normal, one user wrote. If the strike is clean and the edge lacks reading, that could be a collar die failure. 3 more users shared similar stories. Each had only seen it once. Maybe twice. But they all had one thing in common: 1999. Philadelphia. What made it strange was the timing. By 1999, the U.S. Mint had modernized much of its process. Errors had become rarer. Quality checks tighter. Yet here was a dime, produced in a year of high output at the Philadelphia Mint, hiding a ghost in its design. Cynthia dug deeper. That year, the Mint produced over 1.4 billion Roosevelt dimes. A staggering number. If even a few thousand bore this silent error, they could be buried in pockets, jars, and drawers across America, utterly unnoticed, but when collectors began looking, they couldn't find them. The few examples that surfaced had subtle inconsistencies, some with half-missing reading, others with irregular weight. Cynthia's, however, was consistent, balanced, flawless in strike, and entirely smooth on its edge. Auction houses began whispering. Grading companies opened investigations. And slowly, a consensus began forming: this wasn't post-mint. It wasn't damage. It was something more elusive. Experts proposed that during a brief production run, the collar die, the part of the coin press responsible for imparting reading, had failed. For just minutes, blank planchets were struck without the pressure needed to form those iconic ridges. Normally, such coins are caught and recycled. But not always. A few always escape. Cynthia's coin had escaped. She was invited to a conference in Chicago, a rare coin showcase. Her dime, now encased in protective acrylic, passed between gloves and magnifying tools like a sacred artifact. An appraiser looked up from the coin and simply said, "This shouldn't exist in this condition." The bidding began modestly, out of tradition. But as the rarity of the error settled into the room, the numbers ticked upward. One collector from New York offered $12,000 on the spot. Another, representing a private museum, went higher, but Cynthia refused to sell. The coin had become more than a rarity. It was the spark of something larger, an awakening among collectors and historians. New searches began. People poured through coin rolls, estate sales, even vending machine change. Yet most came up empty. The flaw had appeared under specific, unknown conditions, and then vanished without a trace. Like a ghost in the minting line, months later, a second dime surfaced. Then a third. But they were subtly different. One had minor rim damage. Another had a weak strike. Only Cynthia's remained pristine. And then, the twist. A retired technician from the Philadelphia Mint came forward, anonymously, through a numismatic publication. He described a day in mid-March 1999 when a batch of collar dies had been removed for cleaning. During that window, a temporary collar was used, older, less stable, and lacking the precise tolerances of modern dies. He recalled a brief spike in defective coins but claimed they were removed. Still, as he admitted in the interview, nothing's perfect. Cynthia's dime may have been born in that brief moment of imperfection. A modern artifact created in the narrow gap between procedure and error. And with that revelation, the buzz intensified. Her coin was dubbed the Ghost Rim Dime by collectors. Magazines published full-page spreads. High-resolution images were distributed to grading services and mint historians. It was no longer just about reading. It was about the limits of precision, the mysteries that slipped through even the most advanced machinery. The value climbed. One example, far inferior in condition, sold for $28,000. Cynthia, again, refused offers. Not out of greed, but something closer to reverence. The dime sat on her desk, always within reach. A daily reminder that even in a world built on mass production, the rarest treasures are often the ones that weren't supposed to happen at all, and the Roosevelt dime, struck without its signature ridges in a forgotten moment at the Philadelphia Mint in 1999, became one of those treasures.